Pip, Queenie, and the Rhino Beetle. Never judge a book by its cover. In the heart of Sunshine Valley lived a playful puppy named Pip. Pip loved chasing butterflies, splashing in puddles, and making friends with everyone he met. One sunny afternoon, while exploring a new part of the valley, Pip stumbled upon a peculiar sight. There, perched on a giant toadstool, sat a bright purple caterpillar. Now, Pip had never met a purple caterpillar before. Caterpillars were usually green, fuzzy, and munched on leaves. This one, however, shimmered like royalty and wore a tiny, sparkly crown. Intrigued, Pip tilted his head. "Hello," he barked cheerfully. The purple caterpillar, who introduced herself as Queenie, flicked her antenna dismissively. "Greetings, commoner," she said in a snooty voice. "Why would a playful pup like yourself bother a majestic caterpillar such as myself?" Pip's ears drooped. "Well, I just wanted to say hi," he mumbled. "Is there anything you want to do? Maybe chase butterflies?" Queenie scoffed. "Chase butterflies? How utterly pedestrian. Caterpillars of my stature only engage in sophisticated activities, like contemplating the dewdrops and composing sonnets about leaves." Pip didn't understand those words, but Queenie's snootiness made him feel small. He started to turn away when a gruff voice boomed, "What's all this commotion?" A grumpy-looking rhinoceros beetle lumbered towards them. His horns scraped against the ground, making a loud grinding noise. Pip whimpered, afraid of the giant beetle. But to Pip's surprise, Queenie shrieked and hid behind the toadstool. "Oh dear, a rhinoceros beetle. Those dreadful creatures only dig in dirt and eat, roots." The rhinoceros beetle stopped, his horn twitching. "Actually," he rumbled, "I quite enjoy a good mud bath after a long day. And who doesn't love a juicy, crunchy root?" Queenie peeked out, her eyes wide. The rhinoceros beetle chuckled. "Don't judge a book by its cover, little caterpillar. Just because someone looks different doesn't mean they're not fun." He turned to Pip, his voice softer now. "You seem like a friendly pup. Care to join me for a mud bath sometime?" Pip's tail wagged excitedly. "Sure. Mud baths sound like fun." Queenie, still peeking from behind the toadstool, looked hesitant. But seeing Pip and the rhinoceros beetle laughing together, a tiny smile crept onto her face. From that day on, Pip, Queenie, and the rhinoceros beetle became the best of friends. They chased butterflies, splashed in puddles, and even enjoyed the occasional mud bath together. Pip learned that friends come in all shapes, sizes, and even colors. And that judging someone based on how they look is never as fun as making a new friend. Kids, always show respect to others. Never judge a person by their appearance. Sleep tight. Starry Fairy Godmother would like to announce that Starry Night Bedtime Stories is now on Facebook. Now little listeners can follow us on Facebook to tell me about what you think of our video. But don't stop there. Starry Fairy Godmother would like to know what you've learned from the video too. Comment now. Follow us now, little listener. Link is in the description.
Toby loves to learn. Toby the rabbit lived in a cozy burrow with his family in Honeysuckle Village. Toby loved hopping through the meadows with his fluffy tail bouncing, but there was one thing that made his nose twitch even more: learning. Every morning, Toby would watch his older sister, Lily, hop off to the honeysuckle schoolhouse. She'd return with tales of counting juicy carrots, singing with buzzing bumblebees, and learning the names of all the fluffy clouds. Toby longed to join the fun. One sunny afternoon, Toby couldn't resist any longer. While his mama was busy tending their carrot patch, Toby hopped a secret path beyond the meadow. He followed a trail of sparkling dewdrops that led deeper into the woods. Suddenly, the path opened up into a magical sight. Before him shimmered a city unlike anything he'd seen. Buildings were made of shimmering candy canes, streets were paved with golden leaves, and the air buzzed with laughter and music. A friendly squirrel with a bright blue tail scampered up. "Welcome to Sparkle City, little one," she chirped. "What brings you here?" Toby, wide-eyed, explained his wish to learn. The squirrel giggled. "Sparkle City is filled with learning adventures. Here, follow me." She led Toby through streets lined with shops. In one shop, a wise old owl perched on a stack of colorful books, teaching baby birds about the constellations. In another, playful butterflies danced with ribbons, creating beautiful patterns while learning about shapes. Toby's whiskers twitched with excitement. He joined a group of fluffy sheep who were bouncing balls and learning to count. He even learned a silly song about all the colors of the rainbow from a group of singing ladybugs. As the sun began to set, Toby knew it was time to return home. He hopped back through the woods, his head buzzing with new knowledge. Back in his burrow, he couldn't wait to share his adventures with his family. He hopped excitedly, describing the starry constellations, singing the rainbow song, and even bouncing a pebble to show his counting skills. His family's eyes widened with delight. Mama even offered Toby a special reward, a juicy carrot with a star carved on it. That night, snuggled under a blanket of fluffy clouds, Toby knew one thing for sure: learning wasn't just for school. The world was full of magical places where learning could be a fun adventure, like a trip to a sparkle-filled city. And with a happy sigh, Toby drifted off to sleep, dreaming of his next learning escapade. Let's learn together with Toby, because learning is fun.
The Polite and Kind Bart. Bartholomew Big Gums, or Bart for short, was a little bear with a big appetite, for manners, that is. He lived in a cozy apartment in the bustling honeycomb city, where everyone was always on the go. One sunny morning, Bart's mama was baking his favorite treat, honey oatmeal cookies. The delicious smell filled the apartment, making Bart's tummy rumble like a tiny drum. "Mama, are the cookies done yet?" Bart asked, peeking into the oven. Mama smiled, flour dusting her nose. "Almost, sweetie." "While they cool, why don't you run downstairs and say good morning to Mrs. Honeycomb?" Mrs. Honeycomb lived in the apartment below them. She was a kind, elderly lady who always had a jar of sweet clover honey for Bart. Bart's ears drooped. "But Mama," he mumbled, "I don't want to bother her." Mama knelt down, her eyes twinkling. "Saying good morning isn't bothering, Bart. It's being polite. A friendly greeting brightens someone's day, just like sunshine." Bart thought for a moment. He loved sunshine, and he wouldn't mind spreading some himself. So, with a determined puff of his chest, he put on his shoes and headed downstairs. Taking a deep breath, he knocked on Mrs. Honeycomb's door. A moment later, the door creaked open. Mrs. Honeycomb's face, usually filled with a warm smile, looked a little sad. "Oh, hello Bart," she said, her voice low. Bart felt a tiny frown tug at his brow. "Good morning, Mrs. Honeycomb," he greeted, his voice small but clear. "How are you today?" Mrs. Honeycomb's surprised face broke into a wide smile. "Good morning, Bart. That's so kind of you to ask. I'm feeling a little under the weather today." Bart, remembering the sunshine Mama talked about, chirped, "Well, I hope you feel better soon. Mama made delicious cookies, and they'll be ready soon. Would you like one?" Mrs. Honeycomb's eyes widened with delight. "That would be lovely, Bart. Thank you for thinking of me." Bart felt a warm glow in his tummy, even warmer than the thought of cookies. He'd brightened Mrs. Honeycomb's day. Later, as Bart enjoyed his cookie with a steaming cup of milk, Mama ruffled his fur. "See, Bart? Using your good manners can make someone's day brighter. And sometimes, being polite is even sweeter than a delicious cookie." Bart smiled. From that day on, Bart always greeted everyone he met with a good morning or a hello. He learned that good manners weren't just about how you sit at the table, but about spreading a little sunshine with your words and actions. And that, in Honeycomb City, was just as important as any delicious treat. Kids, we should be polite and kind to everyone. You are the angel to brighten others' day. The end.
Starry Fairy Godmother would like to announce that Starry Night Bedtime Stories is now on Facebook. Now little listeners can follow us on Facebook to tell me about what you think of our video. But don't stop there. Starry Fairy Godmother would like to know what you've learned from the video too. Comment now. Follow us now, little listener. Link is in the description.
Flick and the Tricky Treat. Once upon a time, in a forest filled with glittery mushrooms and talking trees, lived a little firefly named Flick. Flick loved exploring the forest, following the trails of moonlight and chasing playful fireflies like himself. One warm evening, while flitting near a bubbling stream, Flick heard a strange sound. It wasn't the usual hoot of an owl or the chirp of a cricket. It was a sweet, tinkling melody, like wind chimes made of sugar plums. Curious, Flick followed the sound deeper into the woods. The trees shimmered with an unusual glow, and the path shimmered with rainbow dust. Finally, he reached a clearing bathed in a soft, purple light. In the center stood a tall, thin creature with wings that sparkled like diamonds. "Hello, little one," chirped the creature, its voice like a tinkling bell. "I'm Shimmer, and I have the most wonderful treats. Candied glowworms and rainbow-dusted dewdrops." Flick's tiny mouth watered. He'd never seen anything like it. "Wow! They look delicious," he said, his eyes widening. Shimmer chuckled, her wings shimmering even brighter. "Why don't you come closer, little firefly? See for yourself." Flick took a hesitant step forward. He really wanted to taste those yummy treats, but something felt wrong. "My mama always says I shouldn't talk to strangers," he mumbled. Shimmer gasped, her voice dropping a pitch. "Oh, but dear one, I'm no stranger. I'm a friend of the forest, just like you." She tilted her head, her eyes gleaming. Don't you want to be friends? Friends share yummy treats, right? Flick wasn't sure. He glanced back at the path, moonlight shimmering faintly. He missed his mama and the familiar glow of their cozy den. Suddenly, a wise old owl hooted from a nearby branch. "Little Flick," he hooted, his voice deep and rumbling, "always remember your mama's words. Strangers can be tricky, even if they seem nice." Flick looked back at Shimmer. Her smile seemed a little too wide now, and her eyes looked a little strange. He squeaked, "Thank you, Mr. Owl. I have to go find my mama." With a burst of light, Flick zoomed away, following the familiar moonlit path. He could hear Shimmer calling after him, but he didn't stop. He flew as fast as he could until he reached his den, nestled safely behind a giant mushroom. His mama, a warm, golden firefly, rushed out. "Flick! There you are! Where have you been?" Tears welled up in her eyes. Flick snuggled into his mama's light. "Exploring," he said, "but I met a stranger with treats. Mr. Owl reminded me to be careful." His mama smiled, her light glowing with pride. "You did wonderfully, Flick. It's always best to stick with friends and family, especially when you meet someone new in the forest." Later that night, as Flick drifted off to sleep, he saw the familiar glow of fireflies outside their den. It was his friends, all gathered around. They were excited to hear about his adventure, and while they listened with wide eyes, Flick knew one thing for sure: friends were the best kind of company, no matter how sparkly the treats offered by strangers may seem. Remember, kids, when a stranger approaches, shout "Stranger danger." Be like Flick, don't accept candy from stranger. The end.